Welcome to the Ascension Path with Twin Essence. I'm Lacey.
And I'm Marley, and we're your Starseed Lightworker and Psychic Medium hosts.
We're identical twins with spiritual abilities and Starseed missions on Earth. On the Ascension Path, we discuss what it's like to be identical twins serving in a spiritual capacity and provide insights into our work as Starseeds. We create a sacred space to receive channeled messages, intuitive teachings, and expansive conversations that elevate your frequency and support your evolution. Join us to learn about navigating the path to Ascension and becoming the most authentic, aligned version of you. Take what resonates and leave the rest. We're discussing dreams and messages that we receive from our Starseed families. We're also talking about interactions in the astral realm because Lacey and I often have a lot of interactions or do a lot of our star and light work in the astral realm, and we receive messages in these dreams. Sometimes it's messages for the collective, sometimes it's messages for us as individuals. And these dreams are very vivid, so I think it's important to share some of these dreams because they really illustrate the work that we do and what it can be like as a starseed in our missions on Earth. Yes, and I think that it's important to note that a lot of our childhood experiences that led us to even knowing that we had spiritual gifts happened at night or happened while we were dreaming or we felt like somebody was watching us that night. There was always something tied to sleep, dream, and nighttime. In fact, growing up, we actually used to wonder a lot why the universe was created and how humans were created and why we were on Earth and how we got there. We both had these experiences independent of each other, and then when we went through our Starseed awakenings, we actually had a talk about how we both used to have these thoughts. And I never voiced it out loud, and neither did Marley. As we grew up later and had our Starseed awakenings, then we had that talk about why was Earth created? And I used to wonder this as a child, and now here I am. And no wonder I thought these things because I wasn't from Earth. So it was another confirmation of our Starseed identities. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy too because I just remember not being able to wrap my head around it, really trying to reason and understand what this creation of humanity was. Like, when was that inception? Like, when did that happen? It really stumped me growing up, and now it makes a lot of sense with the path that we're on. And I had a lot of more fear around aliens than I did around ghosts. Yes, absolutely. So it was a big thing. I think society just had a lot more fear around that for me. I mean, I remember watching Signs as a kid and being terrified of that experience, but also loving the movie. So that's what's so interesting about being a starseed now and the work that we do. Yes, that's an interesting point to bring up because I always go back to the movie Signs as well. That's such an old movie to reference in regards to quote unquote alien invasions or activity, but that is what I think of as well. I don't think of the modern ones, even though Lacey and I are huge horror movie fans, but that is something I think about. And there was a lot of fear created in the collective around quote unquote aliens, which is why Lacey and I don't use that phrase, right? We don't have that experience. We don't view them as aliens. They really aren't. They're light beings. And that's our experience with them. But that being said, on the spiritual path and even the work that we do in the paranormal and not usually being scared easy, not usually being afraid of ghosts, things like that, or the unseen interactions you can have with spirit or star families, there are times where you might get freaked out by something. It's probably a very human reaction to have. And I have many experiences in the night all the time where I wake up to loud crash noises, like crash noises against the side of the wall or the side of the house. Oftentimes, nobody else in the house hears it but me. I know because I asked them. And I'm like, did you wake up at 2 a.m. to that noise? And they're like, no. So I do remember, and I journal about these things a lot. I try to document it. That oftentimes when I hear these crash noises, it's probably a craft from a light being visiting, or maybe it's me just tapping into that other dimension they're in and hearing it. I know one time I had noted down that I was woken up at 2 a.m. to a sound that sounded like a lot like med flight. No one else heard that but me. And it was super loud, it vibrated, it shook the space I was in. I also will have alien invasion dreams. Like, I say that in a more negative context, right? Like using the word alien because it's a little bit more of a fear-based dream. A lot of times there's loud noises that come from my bedroom that because her bedroom's below mine and I have no recollection of them. So I actually am going to read this snippet I have that I wrote in my journal about an experience I had had. I actually had multiple dreams this night, but I had experiences outside of those dreams as well in my bedroom that I wrote about. And preparing for this episode, I was looking through my journal and found this, and I was like, I don't even remember this happening. So it's kind of creepy, or at least it was creepy to me, I think, at the time, which is why I noted it down. So I'm just going to read it verbatim, and then from there, we'll kind of unpack, and I'll talk a little bit more about some other specific experiences I've had in the astral realm with my Sirian family. I just wanted to note too that this is just Marley's kind of thing. She ends up being much more active in the astral realm, or at least she remembers it more than I do. If I have a vivid dream, it's not always going to be as profound as maybe Marley remembers hers. She just happens to have a lot of that recollection from them. Yes. So here goes. I'll just start reading here and then we'll unpack. Shortly after going to bed, I heard a crash. It startled me. It sounded like it was coming from the garage end of the house. It freaked me out because I thought someone was breaking in. I then felt a vibration or rumbling. I could see some flashing lights coming through the shade. So there's a window in my bedroom. This happens sometimes with the neighbors' headlights if they come home late. I close my eyes again. In another few minutes, I hear noises in my room. It was like a clicking or short, high-pitched sounds. It's hard to explain. I got freaked out and immediately thought of an aircraft and light beings. Later in the night, I then had a dream that there was a spirit in our basement. My hearing popped out when I went downstairs and I sensed something darker. This is in the dream, just as FYI, not really happening. I saw glowing red eyes. Lacey said she felt it was a man named Lester. We then energetically cleared the space with no sage or crystals on hand. So that is the end of that entry before I start digging into another dream I actually had that night that I'll be talking about that more stands out to me. But this is super interesting because one, it's documenting the loud crash noises waking me up. It's also documenting that at night I typically have boundaries with my spirit team. I don't want them entering my space at night. Or let me rephrase that. I have boundaries and I typically don't want other beings entering my space at night outside of my immediate spirit team. That does include my star guides, though, in that team. So it's interesting because I was actually having physical reactions, and then there was a little bit of fear, I think, due to that unexpectedness and not wanting something to be in my space that I didn't invite in. I also find it really interesting that I wrote about the spirit in the basement piece because I talked about how we didn't use sage or crystals to clear the space. And that is something that Starseed Lightworkers do. So Lacey and I, when we cleanse for clients in person, local clients, we will use herbs and we'll have crystals and we'll have other things that we use. But it's not uncommon that Lacey and I will just use our light in a space as well as Starseeds to clear it out. Our energy just tends to clear things that are lower vibration. And it's also about attuning the space and using our light and frequency to help clients with clearing and cleansing their space. That's another part of our Starseed purposes. And that's why we offer those services. And it's always been interesting when we've done paranormal work in darker spaces because the darker, lower vibration beings tend to scatter if we're near. It's often a lot of like, they don't want to play with us sort of thing when we used to do a lot more of the paranormal stuff. Sometimes we wouldn't even detect negative entities or low vibration spirits because we were too high vibration that we couldn't even reach that level. We couldn't even tune into that frequency, if you will. So it's very interesting that these experiences often come at night and they often come through dreams in that astral realm. And off of that journal entry is where I then segued later that night into yet another dream that was even more directly Starseed related. And in this dream, I was in a large house or building. It reminded me a lot of a boarding house almost. And I was assessing the space and I was assessing the individuals that lived in this space. It reminds me a little bit of the TV show Evil, if anybody watched that on Paramount Plus. That's a little bit different because they're assessing possible demonic possessions, if you will. But it reminded me of that because I was very much there and quote unquote assessing the people and the space. And there were a lot of children or teenagers and young adults in this space that I was taking a look at. And in this dream, two agents arrived at the door and I answered it. Both these agents were in suits and they had human bodies, but they were like animal heads. As you can tell, if you've been following along, that clearly means that these are Sirian agents. And really, only one of those agents stands out vividly to me because he had a falcon head, or some might look at it and think of a hawk. And I just distinctly remember that suit, that tweed suit, tie, vest, glasses on. And he was very much this authority figure that I was looking to help me assess the individuals in this space. And there was a young boy, and I had asked him if this boy was traveling at night and how would I be able to tell if this boy is traveling at night. And he told me that I'd be able to tell if the boy had red, dry eyes if he was traveling at night, which It's is kind of giving strange.
It's giving Men in Black vibes.
Yes, yes. It's a lot like Men in Black, as creepy as, it's just weird, very weird, right? And we continued on discussing others in this space and then having a meal together. And after that dream, I remember just vividly that Falcon head and that agent I was talking to, just remembering him. And it was a while after that dream that I had done some more reading, and somebody had actually said to me when I'd shared the experience that I was interacting with Ra. And that is something I'm still exploring because that is very much connected to Starseed work and Starseed beings. There is actually a book called The Law of One, and that explores direct channelings with Ra. And I'm hoping to read that and explore a little bit further. But it was a very vivid dream. So I'm of the belief that that is one thing that I do in the astral realm based on other dreams I've had, the one that I just described, as well as other ones, that I am very much doing investigative type work. And even talking about my QHHT session, talking specifically about those dreams and the individuals I interacted with in those dreams, it was confirmed that I am investigating children. I'm taking a look at individuals that may be spiritually awakening sooner than they're expected to. I'm also investigating individuals that may be infiltrated by other groups that are not Syrian or are not part of the council that I work with. So that is something that they shared with me through my QHHT session, and that I continue to see in my dreams with these investigation type dreams that I have.
It's also a delineation between our starseed purposes because Marley has that as part of her purpose and mission, whereas I have other things that are part of my purpose and mission, and then we have shared purposes and mission work together. So we have our own little funnel of together, which is kind of like the work that we pretty much do with Twin Essence, and then there's the work that we sometimes do solo, and this is one of Marley's. Yes, absolutely. So there's things we do together, there's things that we do separate of each other. The investigation work very much is something that I'm doing in that astral realm, reporting to my Sirian agents and the councils that I work with, while Lacey is oftentimes reporting on other things. I do have other dreams that I've recorded where they are based on documents that are confidential or that are secret even. And oftentimes in these dreams, I note that there is information that is truthful in these documents, and there's information that is lies in these documents. And again, I can only get bits and pieces at times from the experiences I have, so I very much relate these different document dreams to the Galactic Federation, to the investigative work that I'm doing, and reporting out to the councils and Syrian agents I work with. Lacey does have some dreams as well that she'll probably share a little bit about.
Early in 2025, I had probably one of the most profound Starseed dreams, and there's a particular theme and thread that we're going to discuss that tends to happen in Starseed dreams. So, my dream took place at an antique store, and Marley and I were both walking into the antique store, and they had a box of oracle cards just thrown into a box out for people to take an oracle card with them. So, we both reached in to grab one, obviously. I pulled one out, and this is the distinct part that I remember. It was Archangel Chamuel, and it was a pink card with a message on it that said stay the course. So, very distinct details that I remember in this antique store and this message, clearly from Archangel Chamuel. And then cut to a scene where Marley and I are getting dressed. And we're getting dressed in particular goddess clothing, the brand Royal Codes, which is a brand we're obsessed with. It has been part of our divine feminine connection this year. And so we're getting dressed in royal codes specifically. So it's a divine feminine message. And there's darkness descending on the city. The darkness looks like this black blanket of fog, and it's coming over a huge city, almost like New York City. And we were preparing and putting on our armor, divine feminine armor, to fight the darkness. And there were other women there with us, but we were preparing to fight this darkness descending on the city. It reminded me a lot of the movie A Quiet Place. It's the second or third
Yes.
one, and I can't remember the name of it, but it has Joseph Quinn in it. That's all I remember. I don't know why, but the city reminded me of
I think
that
it's
because
just
it,
a quiet place too. I
yeah,
could be wrong.
it's a very like
Apocalyptic.
apocalyptic environment, and the darkness was descending, and it was like put on your armor and prepare. And then I woke up from it. But I remember the distinct feeling of a message from Archangel Chamuel, which I don't overly work with archangels. Marley and I just don't. It's not really part of our day-to-day work. But once in a while, they'll come in with something. But Archangel Chamuel, who helps with division in communities and spreads love and peace. And it was this message that was reminding us that we are messengers of divine love and light, and we need to stay the course. There's things coming, but we need to stay the course and stick to our Starseed missions. So, really profound message and elements of it that really are hallmarks of Starseed work.
And it's super interesting because that same night that Lacey had that dream, I also had a dream about darkness descending on a city. With my dream, and I believe you said this, Lacey, yours, the city you were in, did it remind you of New York? I think you said that.
Yep.
My dream also took place in New York. This is so strange. But we love when these things happen because it's a weird synchronicity where we both go off and have an experience, but then it's like, they both took place in New York City, huh? Which is also funny because Lacey and I have never been to New York City. So very interesting. But my dream took place in like a futuristic New York. And I was traveling with another boy and girl that were teenagers or in their teens. And we were on this long journey, just walking through this futuristic New York. And on this walk, we're talking and we keep referring to them, quote unquote, them. And it was obvious from the conversations we were having that when we said them, we were very much referring to higher beings and this higher vibration. And we finally get to this location that we needed to get to. And there are these robots that are white with chrome pieces. Kind of reminds me of iRobot. I love how all these dreams we have movie references in. I'm just now realizing that, which is also a Will Smith movie, I think, too, which is creepy because we mentioned Men in Black. Okay, putting together those pieces, we'll file that away for later to dig into. But it reminded me of iRobot. It's white with chrome pieces, and there's these lights within them, too, that were colorful. And these robots do energy work on me. And so I'm by myself with this robot. The robot's doing energy work on me. And after the robot kind of releases me from this energy work to prepare me for the next place I'm going, I felt very disoriented. I just felt like a little dizzy and I was a little bit off, which I just had a ton of, I'm assuming, an energetic upgrade in this dream. And they send me into this next room then. And it's this gigantic convention center and all these round tables, and you just hear all this talking and all these voices. And the convention center is full of light workers. So spiritual and starseed light workers are just filling this room. And they give me directions on what row I need to walk in and what table I need to get to. So I'm disoriented from this energy work and I'm walking through these rows. And then somebody yells, Marley. And I turn around and look. It's some guy with dreadlocks and crazy makeup. And he's like, You're supposed to be at this table. And he points to a table next to him. And I'm like, Oh, I'm sorry. I'm out of it. And he's like, No problem. My guides told me you need to come sit at this table. So I go and sit down at this table. And there's two women at this table who are reading me, as weird as this sounds. They go through a meditative activity with me and they start giving me deep messages of things. So I'm not going to go into all the messages they shared with me, but deep messages about my life. And I'm telling them about my life and they're giving me messages on it. As I'm getting ready to leave this table, the one woman all of a sudden stares off into this trance and she starts talking in this really low voice. And she's like, You are the light, and the darkness is coming, and we are going to fight against him. And so I'm yelling in this convention center, like, what? To this woman, because she's speaking quietly. I hear it, but it's loud, so I'm like, what? What? And then I basically pulled out of that dream. But again, it's very interesting because we have the synchronicity of New York coming up again. We have the synchronicity of darkness coming up again. I think you had said, did you say you had a reference to him in your dream as well, Lacey?
I didn't mention it, but that was one of the references with the darkness. They kept calling it him
Okay,
when it
I
was
thought
descending on
so.
the city.
I thought so. Both these dreams, we had these in the same night, right? Separate of each other. And it was early January 2025. So there was a lot happening for the collective where we're living currently. So I just think it was very interesting timing that these messages pulled through. And I remember as I journaled about it afterwards, thinking that it may have been Arcturians or Andromedans that were in that like robot doing energy work on me because I know that they are often associated with technological advancements. It was a very interesting experience and message, and it's something that Lacey and I still work to unpack as we have continued to read about others' experiences, whether it's through QHHT or other lifetimes they've experienced. It's not uncommon for Starseed Lightworkers to reference darkness or reference him in other lifetimes. I very much think it's related to our missions and some of that work that we do as Starseeds in that astral realm.
And we've read books about this too, where there was a specific book we read about starseeds with quantum hypnosis and all these clients that would talk about darkness and him, and they often called it
Yes.
him. So it was very validating when we read that because we had already experienced that in dreams. It's important to note that there are negatively and positively polarized beings. So I don't like to use the terms negative or positive or good or bad because they're just made up words that we use to describe things. But for lack of a better word, there's negatively and positively polarized beings that they all have different purposes and
Some of them come through Earth's grid, and there's holes from it. So sometimes there's star seeds that are like dedicated to patching holes. And have even had experiences with more negatively polarized beings when I was early on in my awakening. I didn't understand what it was, but I remember being in the lucid like dream state and having this being entity. It was kind of like a creature enter my room, and I was watching it from a third party view, and I felt it come into the room, and then right when it was going to come up to me, I woke up. So it wasn't scary, but it was more of me being in tune to different frequencies and energies as I was awakening that part of myself. So it's important to note that there's these different types of beings, and that we're positive ones that work on ascending with Gaia and helping humans ascend with her. But there are some that are lower vibration, and the darkness in him is often a reference for it.
I know the dream or the experience you're talking about, Lacey, with the low vibration being, I think we had read into that. When I say read, I'm referring to tapping in, connecting to spirit, connecting to our star family to figure out what is this energy? Why was it contacting me or trying to attempt contact with me? And I believe we had come to the conclusion that it could have been reptilian in nature. Not that all reptilians are negatively polarized, but there are some that have different values or different missions that are quite contrasting to the work that we do.
Yes. Yes. And it's the other thing I want to mention when it comes to the astral realm is that it's very common for us to report back to our councils or our star families at night. We call it a council because it's more than just our star family that we report to with our mission work. And sometimes we remember parts of it, other times we don't remember it. I don't tend to remember my dreams. Marley will have very detailed, in depth dreams, and I don't have as in depth, detailed dreams. I have a lot of different types of dreams, but we still report back to our council. It's part of checking in with them. Sometimes we do go back to the ship, which our family hates when we say that, but yes, I literally mean going back to an aircraft or a ship at night. And that's where we talk to our star families. We've even had experiences where I remember we were alone one night and it was before bed, and we popped outside to look at the sky. I don't remember why we did this. And there was a blinking light way up in the stars, but it wasn't an airplane, it wasn't Starlink. And we were like, is that like, and then it would change, and we were like, oh my gosh, like it's a ship. So we've even had those experiences where we've seen them and we know they're watching over us. It doesn't scare us at all. It freaks other people out, I think, a lot more.
What's interesting too is that we often do not have UFO sightings. We do not have those types of experiences when we go to paranormal investigations or paranormal or haunted places. Oftentimes, when we're with others and we divide a group, other people have these UFO sightings and these experiences with light beings, and it's these crazy experiences. And Lacey and I never have that, never have had that. So it's interesting to see when we do see crafts now and have those experiences now. I often attribute it to that back at those investigations when others would have those experiences, our star families knew we didn't need those experiences to believe. They knew that we did not need to see those things to understand this greater energy and these other beings out in the universe. So that's why we didn't have those experiences until now, right? Now being in our fully in our identities and doing our starseed work, that they're able to more fully express themselves when the time's appropriate for us.
That, and we're one of them, so it's like not interesting for them.
I agree. I know we've joked about this before, right? But when we have been on investigations, it's extremely common for the spirit box, like the spirits will all of a sudden be like, two aliens. and, and Lacey and I always look around like, does does everybody know? Do they know it's us? Or the spirit box will just be like twins. That happens too sometimes. But That's why we always joke, well, we're one of them. It's not that interesting. We talk to them in the astral realm. They don't need to bother us when we're being humans right now.
Yeah, and I think that I don't want anyone to ever walk away with fear of it. I think that it's all about your intentions and what you attract and call in, and that's the important part of maintaining your frequency and vibration and setting boundaries with the work that you do in the spiritual realm. But it is important to note that there are not as great beings out there. And we have had a lot of interaction that we haven't even shared with different types of beings that aren't so positive or high vibration. But sometimes it's important to understand the darker side of things to understand the lighter side of things. So, all of those experiences that we have had have ultimately just taught us more about the light and the work that we do. It's all been in a very safe, controlled environment. And that's the whole point of those lessons and those learning experiences. I know society has a lot of fear still. It's becoming more open, but a lot of fear around aliens and extraterrestrials and things like that. I can say that from my quantum hypnosis session, I did have an abduction experience. That's what they started with in my memories. And it was scary to relive, but it wasn't a bad experience. And my star family took care of that for me. And that's part of my purpose in this lifetime now is to not have something like that happen to me now that I know what I know and where I am spiritually. So I don't have as much fear around it, but growing up I did, and that explained a lot of the fear I had around those beings because it had happened to me in a different lifetime. And well, the funny part is it freaks my mom out a lot more because she was in that lifetime when that happened. So if I make comments about going back to the craft or the ship at night, she gets really mad. And I'm like, oh, it's just her hanging on to that past life where they took me without permission. That other being, those other beings took me without permission. But it's okay. It was a traumatic experience. I was pulled out of that mission, and there's a reason they put me in this mission now with Marley. More on that later, right? There's always more on that later.
I think too, like it's interesting pulling in your other lifetime with an abduction experience and other experiences you've had even as a child, and then knowing now what I know about the investigation work I do as a starseed in the astral realm. And I think too, as a child, it wasn't that I was afraid of being abducted when I thought about aliens. I would say I did get really curious though about the government side of it and what the government, at least the US government, right? What does the US government know? What are they not sharing with us? And wanting information exposed and wanting to see the pictures, read the documents, hear the experiences, and even though it would freak me out, right? A little bit. And so I think that really aligns and plays to the investigative side that I do in the astral realm yet, right? It's me still being that little investigator, still wondering things, still talking to other agents, wanting to know what the US government knows, right? And it all kind of ties into that theme of those dreams I have with investigations and secret documents. What's the truth? What are lies? So it's just interesting to see those little pieces come together as you go on your journey.
And it reminds me of Bigfoot and people trying to find Bigfoot and capture it and technology not working. And I remember Spirit telling me once Bigfoot's just an interdimensional being. And it made sense to me. I was like, oh, yep, makes sense. I don't need to be scared of that. And I understand what it is. And that's where they stand with that. But bringing it back to the topic, starseed work can be done in the astral realm, and we can be very active in the astral realm because of being starseed lightworkers. And that just happens because of that 5D energy, right? Starseeds are 5D. They're a different vibration dimension. They're a higher consciousness, which is why some of our starseed work can only be done in the astral realm. It can only be done when we're in our energy body form, when we're able to be free and travel more and communicate more frequently with them. So that's part of why we have such active dream worlds at night and experiences at night. And this is everything that you heard today. It's all part of our experiences and the knowledge we've gained from our experiences. It's what we know now. It can always change and evolve and develop as we go, but this is where we're at with a lot of the information we've received in the astral realm and reasons it's happening and parts of our mission that we know. So, dreams, are they real? Are they happening on a different timeline? Are they happening in a different reality than where we are right now? Who knows? But I encourage you all to take note of your dreams and journal them because you never know what kind of breadcrumbs you're going to find in them.